So we're here at the lay-by in my own community and we're looking at a pollinator friendly bed. So this bed traditionally was planted up with begonias and annual plants, and they were put in quite formally, and it did look quite nice, but for pollinators it had no value. So it also was covered in bindweed. So we have some FOSS workers in our community, and they very helpfully dug the whole thing over, and we removed as much of the weed as we could, the root, and then it was planted up mainly with perennials from my own garden. So it was planted up last March at around the same time as coronavirus came, so it was very difficult to get plants because a lot of the garden centres were inundated and their websites closed down. So most of the plants here came from my own garden, either ones that had self-seeded or ones that I'd split. So I'm going to just talk you through it now a little bit. So if we start at this end, the lovely purple flower there that you see, this is Nepeta Walker's Low. I use this an awful lot in my plantings because the bees absolutely love it and it flowers for ages. There is a lovely orange French marigold beside it, and it contrasts lovely with the purple flower. So this is what I'm thinking when I plant. I don't try and introduce every colour because then it can look a little bit too busy and too crazy. So I'm trying to use complementary colours. So the orange and the purple work very well together. Also, the other thing that I'm thinking of is things that will flower early in the summer, things that will flower midsummer, and things that will flower later in the summer. So we have some Aquilegia here, Granny's Bonnet, so this flowers in May, and some Pulmonaria. And the Pulmonaria as well has a lovely bright leaf, and it contrasts really nicely with the other darker leaves. So it has double value, the leaf and the flower. Right behind it, this is an annual cornflower. So this is sown from seed every year. And I sowed these from seed and planted them out as tiny little plugs, and they've worked really well. They fill out and it's very naturalistic. And behind it we have Ami, which looks quite like what many people would call a weed, but it works really lovely here. So it's a very naturalistic planting scheme, almost like what you'd see in the wild. There's a lovely pink geranium here, and this flowers all summer long, really from about June right through until October. And it will fill down and hang down over the wall, which will look lovely. And another silver Pulmonaria there again. Behind it we have a white cosmos, an annual that I sow from seed every year. And the only thing that you need to do with this is deadhead it, take off the dead flowers. Now I don't do this very often, but it does prolong the flowering season. So we did buy about 5 plants for this bed, and one of the ones that we bought was this lovely Achillea terracotta. We bought it from Cara Hurley, and you might just see that bee there enjoying the Nepeta. And again, the lovely orangey colour is lovely against the purple. Okay, so here, this big yellow plant, which is kind of flopped over, but it works very well. This is a verbascum, so it's a biennial, and the bees absolutely love this. So I grew these from seed, and usually they don't flower until the following year. So I planted some out here, and people kept pulling it out thinking it was a weed because it looks like this before it's flowered. So this is what you get if you can leave it. And this is a Rudbeckia. So this is great for late flowering colour, flowers for ages, and an annual sunflower behind it. There's a nice sage here which hasn't flowered yet. We bought this plant too. More Nepeta here on the corner. So I was a little bit restricted because I could only use the plants that were coming from my own garden. Okay, let me just move around the whole bed. So you can see the orange and the purple again, the nice blues and the pink. So I tend to try and stick to some colours. If I go with reds, I will try and stick with reds and whites mainly, because reds are quite strong. If I introduce red into this bed, it would totally change how the bed looks. It would probably look a little bit less natural. This is a lovely plant as well. We bought this one. This is Garrya elliptica, and it's gorgeous. It's lovely and wavy. Another lovely verbascum here. And this plant, which I'm going to put a few more in, this is our Verbena bonariensis. So you plant this, it hardly takes up any space, and you get these big tall spikes of flowers, and the butterflies and bees absolutely love it, and it flowers for ages. And another Rudbeckia here. So you can see purple and yellow and whites and oranges that's the colour palette that I've used on this bed. Just to give you a final look.